Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is Jack.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Season 8 finale of the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian, Mr. Todd A. Davis. If you ask him about his blue underwear, there's a chance he might show them to you. Dear listeners, on YouTube, you can find all his Star Trek parody songs under his moniker, Star Rekt. Please welcome back, Ian Ramsey. Yay! Ian.
Well, now I wish I read that intro because, of course, you're going to leave little blue underwear. That's all you know. That's all a lot of people know, unfortunately.
It is. It is one of my favorite memories from my very brief time in LA doing karaoke with you and a whole bunch of other Star Trek fans. And oddly, okay, he's putting on Walking in a Winter Wonderland, the instrumental of Walking in a Winter Wonderland. And then you strip off your outer layer to reveal Enterprise accurate blue tank top and trunks. I'm like, wow, like best cosplay ever, most minimal cosplay ever.
Exactly. It was the only cosplay tournament I've ever won. And I mean, all it took was one order from Amazon.
Wow. Oh, man.
Which I've gotten use out of since, obviously. So
yeah, sure.
Now, here's a little stupid nugget of info that no one asked for, but I have since worn that same getup in other performances, not videos, but performances, and unfortunately the bottoms have shrunk a bit, and I might have had a Janet Jackson malfunction at an event, and that is when I retired those bottoms.
Oh man. Well, dear listeners, you are getting your money's worth today.
Because I did that kick line. It was that kick line.
I
was just on stage and I did a little kick line. I'm like, and I felt a little chill down there.
A little shift.
Chill. Like, yoink.
Well, I got to say, we spent some time before the show talking about our convention experiences, and you've been on the cruise, you've been to Vegas. Honestly, one of my favorite memories is a bar full of Trekkies singing Faith of the Heart at the top of their lungs. That was a lot of fun.
That never gets old, especially when it is led by Enterprise actors. Mm-hmm. So I will give Connor and Dom props that they started that one that you and I were at. Mm-hmm. And the last couple of years, they've been the guys hosting karaoke on not only the cruise, but oddly enough, STLV as well. I'm wondering if they're just like, well, we'll do that. Why not? It's easy. But of course, any single karaoke event that they host, whether they want to or not, the crowd is singing Faith of the Heart. And no joke, I have started it all 3 times in the last 3 times on the cruise.
Nice.
Like, that is now my thing. Like, I refuse to not be the guy who starts Faith of the Heart on the final karaoke night of the cruise.
Wow. That's
okay. Before somebody jumps on your comments and says, no, that's I will fully admit this last year, no. So 2 of the last 3 years I did. This last year, somebody jumped the gun, actually tried to sing it for karaoke, did a horrible job. Oh. And then I think it was Anthony Montgomery who actually has joined those 2 gentlemen in hosting the cruise karaoke. It's like, no, let's do it right. and it was kind of just like self-led by them.
Nice.
But yeah, long story short, it's a tradition. If there's karaoke involved and any Enterprise actors involved, Faith of the Heart is happening.
With the release of today's subject matter, Subspace Rhapsody, listen, nothing's ever going to replace Faith of the Heart, but maybe some of these songs might be incorporated. There's some bangers in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have thoughts. I have
Okay.
thoughts.
Oh boy.
But I do hope over time, and I know there's definitely a core group of really dedicated fans who have gone out of their way to memorize every single word of every single song. So like it's already
Wow.
out there. But I'm hoping in the near future that these songs kind of pierce the zeitgeists of the fandom, where more and more
Yeah.
people start to appreciate them, like Faith of the Heart has.
Yeah. Well, before we get too deep on Subspace Rhapsody, it's been a long road since you've been here on Computer Resume podcast. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar or have since joined, or this is the first time hearing Ian, give people a rundown, like your intro into the franchise, what you are known within the fandom for, and are you working on anything currently?
Oh God. Well, first off, for intro into the franchise,
Yeah.
I no joke. This is not hyperbole. As far as I'm concerned, I came into this world already liking Star Trek because my dad was a Trekkie, and from a super young age, like I don't even know if I could have walked or not, but he would put on the movies on VHS that were out at the time, and whether he's like doing chores or whatnot, or just sitting and watching, and either in baby or toddler form, I'm there right next to him. So I literally have no memory of watching the first 5 movies for the first, and it was just movies, I should emphasize. I have no memory of watching the first 5 movies for the first time because as soon as I was old enough to form memories, I already knew them all by heart practically. So I
awesome.
literally, I do not joke when I say I am a literal lifetime Star Trek fan. That is not an exaggeration.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I'm so jealous.
Oh God,
Yeah.
what was
Pat and
what was
Walt
the second
Davis
part of
we're nowhere near as cool.
that? Well, and then as far as who I am, my name is Ian Ramsey, and I run a little channel on YouTube called Rekt. And amongst other things, it specializes and focuses on Star Trek parody songs, which hopefully maybe some of you have heard.
Listen, Ian's doing the typical thing where you sort of downplay the skill, you downplay the level of awesome that you are.
I'm not downplaying the size though. It's still a small channel. Like I know not a lot of people get to the size I am, but it's still a small channel.
Fair. Whenever I talk about you to anyone else, it's always he is the Weird Al of the Star Trek universe.
That is the highest compliment I have ever received. I have gotten in a few times already, and I do not take it lightly. That literally is the biggest compliment I could get. Because when people think of parody songs, of course they think of Weird Al.
Of course.
And like, yeah, I mean, where do you go if you're not the Weird Al of Star Trek?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a specific subject. So there's honestly nowhere else to go.
Yeah,
So
not really.
highest compliment.
And I say it with no shred of irony in my heart. I truly feel that way. And like I said, I have
Thank you very much.
mentioned you to many people. So but yeah, let's so that's who you are. We've talked a little bit about what you've been up to, just cranking out the content and living the dream as a Star Trek fan.
Little slower pace than I would have liked this last couple years without going into any detail of personal life and just world events. Yes,
Fair.
but I'm on the verge of hopefully cranking things out more, like a better cadence as I used to, because I will fully admit, I feel like I have not been holding my own or my end of the bargain as a content creator these last year and a half. But
and
the tides are turning.
Yeah. I'll get to a little bit of that on my end later in the episode. But I think it's definitely safe to say that over the last little while, I have definitely found comfort in our subject matter today, Subspace Rhapsody. It's one of the things that if I'm doing chores around the house or if I'm sitting in my office, our living room is actually out my office door to the left. If I'm working in here, I'll put it on the TV in the living room and can hear it just fine. Um, or if I want to watch an episode in general, it kind of is a default of like, yeah, let's put this one on. And I think for Star Trek fans who are looking for hope in the current state of the world, I think this is a quick and easy place to alleviate some of that negative pressure that people might be feeling. Speaking
Well,
of negative,
hot damn, you just honestly, and I've rewatched this episode twice, literally today in preparation for this.
yeah, yeah,
That honestly, that is a an approach to this episode that I never even considered because I was coming at it with a very critical mind because I still pretend to be critical about Star Trek.
of course.
And yeah, so no, you're not wrong. I can absolutely imagine this episode being on a lot of people's lists of feel good, boost me up Star Trek episodes, ranging from like Trouble with Tribbles to Take Me Out to the Holosuite to Subspace Rhapsody. Yeah, it is an absolute feel good episode.
Oh, totally. And my wife has endured my fandom and she's very supportive, but at most of the time she's just kind of like, oh, there's a new episode. Okay, yeah, let's sit
The
and
the
watch.
blanket statement of any partner of a Star Trek fan, let's be honest. I've been there.
But this episode is so unique. As I do with all new episodes, I did watch it with my wife, and when the credits started rolling, she looked at me and said, "Now I'm a fan." I was like,
Oh, awesome.
I was like, okay. And it's so fun. Like one of my rewatches was again with my wife, and I've seen it enough that I don't have to pay attention to every frame. So this time I watched her watch it, and to see her, because again, she's not the biggest Star Trek fan, but she does love musicals and she loves everything that's presented in this episode. The thing that I had to tease her a little bit about was she sings the parts that don't contain technobabble, and then for the rest she'll drop
I don't
out.
blame her at all. I don't blame her at all.
Yeah, and I told her, I said, "Hun, you had some classically trained Shakespearean actors that had problems with technobabble. You are not alone." I just think it's a little
Okay,
funny.
so is an issue of her not like remembering or being able to, for lack of a better term, physically say the technobabble as opposed to her just being like anti-technobabble?
It's a little bit of all of the above, of just kind
Okay.
of like she could not figure intermixed chamber and containment field, phaser
Very,
banks
very
deflector
new
shield.
phrase. Yeah, very new phrases to her
Yeah,
lexicon.
yeah. She's just kind of like all at the ready.
That oh my God. That kind of sounds to me like back in my day, but before like all the lyrics were available on the internet and everything, when you sort of had to like kind of fake your way through some lyrics that you didn't know while listening to songs on
Uh-huh.
the radio.
Uh-huh.
I can now see that with Technobabble.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I mentioned the negative pressure that this releases for some fans. However, it seems like I remember distinctly when they announced this that it sort of stoked the flames of Trek bros who were just kind of like, Star Trek isn't musical. You can't do this. What in the like, hey, how about we watch it first before we judge?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my first statement to anyone who has those knee-jerk reactions to anything
Yeah.
of new Star
Yeah.
Trek from like '09 onward. And I mean, not to take a side road to like the toxicity of some fans. I don't even want to call them fans because you know that there are just like
Yeah.
people and groups out there who specifically go out of their way to
Hmm.
trash anything that is well considered woke for starters, but
Right.
also just anything that's like new and adventurous. Like they're so set in their old ways that you see one image from an upcoming. I mean, like take them. Let's take the Muppet episode or Puppet episode coming up for Strange New World season 4.
Yeah.
That image or that little teaser was released of Captain Pike as a puppet. Me personally, I'm like, oh God, like it's like I mean we might talk about season 3, we might not, but to me, like Strange New Worlds has kind of they could recover, but has kind of turned into Star Trek Strange New Gimmicks.
Okay.
But
All
but
right.
but
All
but
right.
but 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 even though that clearly is kind of a negative critique and opinion
Mm.
of season 3 and this potential puppet episode, I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to keep an open mind because in my philosophy, there's a right way to do anything.
Oh yeah.
And if they find that right way to do a puppet episode the same way that, in my opinion, they found the right way to do a musical episode, then
Hmm.
I'm going to enjoy it.
You know what it makes me think of? The announcement that the actor playing Joker would be heartthrob Heath Ledger.
Right? Isn't
So
it?
many
Okay.
people were so bent out of shape. Are you kidding me? 10 Things I Hate About You is going to be the Joker. And then they released the image of him in the makeup. And it was like,
Right. Okay.
oh, that's what you're doing. Okay. All right.
I almost wish this was a visual podcast because I'm like doing this. Yes. Because okay, so I'm a huge James Bond fan.
Oh,
And I will
yeah.
fully admit that I was anti Daniel Craig leading into Casino Royale.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? Daniel Craig is one of my favorite Bonds, and Casino Royale is my favorite Bond movie. It is so great to
Yeah.
be proven wrong. If you have apprehensions, pre-opinions about something that are on more on the negative side,
Sure.
but then something is legitimately awesome and you change your mind, it's so great to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say that's what this world needs. People who are willing to be proven wrong.
Yeah. The other thing I thought about was, and I've said this pretty much about every episode of Strange New Worlds, and I've also said it to anyone I've talked to who, for one reason or another, has just not pulled the trigger and watched Strange New Worlds. This show is better than it has any reason to be. It should not be this good. And for them to go back to an episodic format and treat every episode as its own little movie. And we've seen things from the horror episodes to the medieval episodes to the comedy episodes to the romantic comedy episodes. At this point, we've seen pretty much every popular genre of storytelling represented in less than 30 episodes of this show. And it's
Yes.
insane. It's crazy. But I'm like,
You are very right.
yeah,
And that's where Star Trek thrives
yeah, yeah.
is sci-fi more than any other genre
Mhm.
is the most amenable to genre blending and bending.
Mm,
And yes,
mhm,
that's where
mhm.
Star Trek thrives. You can get the horror episode, you can get the romantic episodes, you can get the comedic episodes, you can get the really dark, bleak episodes.
Yeah.
And I think one thing in Strange New World's favor, as they committed to an episodic flavor of Star Trek again, is that serialized Trek doesn't really get the opportunity to do that, and
That's
and
true.
it kind of has to focus, and I'll use Discovery and Picard as examples. It kind of has to they have to focus on a singular tone because
Mm,
they're telling a singular story. Now,
mhm.
granted, with a season of television, you can kind of take breaks or detours from
Sure.
that.
Sure.
But in general, there's just a singular tone across the board. So,
Yeah.
so episodic, you can mess with the formula. I will totally say that again. I kind of already hinted at this, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole. But I was very disappointed with season 3.
Okay.
I
All right.
really love Strange New World. In fact, I was going to say that it was my favorite of the new Treks up to that point.
Okay.
season 3 really bummed me out because the double-edged sword of going back to episodics when you have only 10 episodes to work with as opposed to 24 is
Mm,
that it just almost becomes gimmick of the week or gimmick every other week in this
I can
case.
see that. Yeah, I
And
can see
that's
that.
why the Muppet episode kind of concerns me, is because I don't think they went too gimmicky in this third season. And if that's what they think the show is now moving forward, that concerns me.
Mm.
But since we're talking about Subspace Rhapsody, up to that point, I'm like, gimme, 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 because they weren't going crazy gimmicky yet.
True, true. Well, let's dive in, staying spoiler free for a moment and really kind of let if you can recall your first viewing of this episode, Subspace Rhapsody. What were your thoughts going in, and can you give me kind of the general sense of how you felt during it, and once those final credits rolled and that medley started? How did you feel about it? And then how did you feel, revisiting it for our discussion today?
Okay. So, initial reactions, like I said, I try to be as critical as possible to any new Star Trek that I watch.
Hmm. Hmm.
And even though I'm going to have a lot of critiques in this review, I do want to generally say that as far as Star Trek doing a musical episode, it
Yeah.
was a success. I
Oh, yeah,
do
totally.
like this episode, and I
Mhm.
think it was successfully done.
Okay.
I will say though, I think it could have been a lot better.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And
It,
and
is
and
this
and
spoiler stuff
no,
or
no, 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 no.
okay. All right,
And the
all right.
main reason for that is I liked the reason, the scientific mumbo jumbo reason that they gave to make it happen,
Sure.
and even the resolution, like all the Star Trek stuff about why this was happening to the crew,
Hmm.
I liked and I
Okay.
think was done very well. And the fact that they were able to um, capitalize on this medium in this episode to continue season long story arcs and character arcs, I think was
Yeah.
great. So every, I am most critical about this episode when it comes to the songs.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on because because I again my music knowledge, technical is is minimal at best. I have a very eccentric taste when it comes to music. So I wanted somebody who could speak knowledgeably to it.
Well,
Uh,
a quick disclaimer to your listeners.
yeah.
I'm not a musical professional. Yes, I do parody songs on YouTube. That's just a dude rewriting lyrics and singing. Um, when it comes to musical experience, training, theory, knowledge, and all of that, I'm not going to claim to be a professional and all knowing about that.
Okay.
But that being said, I would like to believe that I know enough to at least throw in my critiques of this. And also, I have done some musical theater in the past. Again, not a professional, but I've done musical theater. I'm plugged into that world. So hopefully, even though I won't be speaking like an expert on this, hopefully,
Yeah. No. And
yeah.
again, like, God, throw a rock and you'll find a Trekkie with an opinion. So I at least
Sorry.
wanted
That was good. I
I
like that.
I at least wanted somebody who could who had more knowledge than me. That was the goal. That was the goal. So
I
I'm
think I
and
can fit that bill. I think I can fit that bill.
yeah. So yeah, I think this kind of, for me, narratively speaking, I kind of liken this to the 2009 film of, hey, here's the creative way that we were able to have old Spock and new Spock meet. And
Yes.
and to be honest, I don't feel that the explanation, I don't feel like it was dumbed down.
No.
It was discussed amongst scientists, but broken down for the people in the room that weren't scientists and ultimately the audience of like, hey, and again, Star Trek Star Trek has a slew of technical people who retire from NASA. Like they're not stupid. They're not just throwing crap at a wall and seeing what stick. There's definitely some legitimacy to every scientific what if that is presented in Star Trek all the way back to the 60s, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Let me nerd out for a quick second.
Yeah, please.
And maybe there's a slight element of bias because I've
Okay.
gotten to know her a little bit over the last few years. Dr. Erin McDonald.
Oh yeah.
An astrophysicist who is the scientific advisor for this current era of Star Trek. I have total faith in her. I really do. And especially after listening to many panels and presentations that she and sometimes Dr. Muhammad Noor have given at various cons and the cruise. Like, I know, I even randomly stumbled upon an Instagram reel of her on stage with a whole bunch of other astrophysicists, including Neil deGrasse Tyson. I am very confident in if Erin McDonald says this reason is screen worthy and good to go, I believe her. So of all things to really, especially in Star Trek fandom, if you're going to make a musical episode and you're trying to make it through a scientific reason outside of someone having like a virus in their brain or an organism in their brain.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Shades of Grey. No, I have faith that whatever Spock is talking about for the reason why this is happening, I'm taking it. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, as long as your premise holds water, and again, because I don't know music, but I know storytelling. So I know, from a Star Trek perspective, as long as you're within lines of established lore and your science makes some sense, that's a great start. And from there on, I'm along for the ride. But I can tell you're chomping at the bit, and so am I. And I feel like if we really want to get into the nitty gritty, we definitely need to let people know about spoilers. So before we go any further, let's get to this week's recap. Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone Waugh III, Esquire, Zitzman Chiropractic, Dawn Ringheiser, and Nate D.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Celebrate with song. Do you know the odds of all of us being here at this time? It's improbable. And yet, here we are.
While conducting communications experiments, Uhura broadcasts a recording of Cole Porter's 1934 song Anything Goes into a mysterious subspace fold, producing a unique improbability field. And on that note, we cue the music.
And on that note, we cue the music.
has an argument with Battelle in song in front of the crew. Chapel wins a prestigious research fellowship and reveals in song that she prioritizes it over her relationship with Spock. Lon confesses her feelings to recently promoted Kirk before the musical can force her to, but he's already in a relationship with a pregnant Carol Marcus.
Whoa, that was close.
An affected Klingon ship intends to blow up the field, but experiments reveal this'll destroy every ship in Starfleet and half of the Klingon Empire.
Okay, that's not good.
Uhura determines that singing an upbeat grand finale will provide enough energy to close the improbability field before the Klingons arrive. She encourages the crew to sing about the fulfillment they find in working together, and when the song concludes, the improbability field dissipates.
And there was much rejoicing.
Hi, it's me, Flip Kiki, the Trek Queen of NYC, and you're listening to the Computer Resume podcast.
Now we are in spoiler territory, so I am cranking this wheel, opening the floodgates. Ian, tell me all about your thoughts and feelings on this episode, Subspace Rhapsody.
Okay. Like I said, when it comes to the overall episode and how Star Trek has made a musical episode, the story, the arcs, the reason for it, success. 2 thumbs up. My big critique of this episode really does it's the songs themselves, but also in rewatching this, honestly, the direction of the songs. So when the songs happen, I have mixed feelings on how it was directed and presented.
Okay,
and
interesting.
I'm not sure how much you want me to go into that.
Elaborate as much as you like.
Basically, I'll start with the direction. For the exception of a few songs, Chapel's I'm Ready and the finale, and I'm sure there's other moments here or there that I'm just not thinking of, I feel that there should have been a lot more spectacle in terms of how camera and camera movements, in terms of lighting, in terms of just general things that could have been done to make each musical number more engaging. Because there are a couple numbers in this episode that, again, presentational wise and in some case music wise, are a little dull.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the big offender to me, and we can talk more when we get there, is the song that number one sings to La'an towards the end when they disengage, or when she disengaged the grab. Yeah, Keeping Secrets. That's the biggest offender as far as being really dull.
Okay.
And then as far as the music goes, I have my main big critique is of the grand finale, and I'm actually going to keep everyone on tenterhooks until we get to the grand finale before I really go into that one about why I think that could have been so much better. But in general, I feel like the songs could have used far more variety.
Okay.
There are definitely changes in tones and styles. You got your upbeat ones, your more bombastic pieces, your ballads. But in general, altogether, it just really screams generic modern musical and doesn't really stray from that. Okay. Now, we briefly talked about this before we started recording, but I know everyone was comparing this to the Buffy musical episode.
Yeah. It's been noted that they really were trying to live up to that. If anyone's unfamiliar, the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, written and directed by Joss Whedon, they did a musical episode called Once More with Feeling, and it's very, very popular.
Yeah, my bar of comparison is actually the Scrubs musical episode, which I thought they just knocked out of the park. And so, yeah, a lot of comparisons do come from that. but the big one being that the Scrubs musical episode specifically went out of their way to make or to try and make every single song unique and to stand out.
Okay.
And they did that by um, mainly modeling each song after other musicals, like Music Man, Les Mis, and a whole bunch of other ones that I'm brain farting on that I know were in or a lot of Gilbert Gilbert and Sullivan. So every single song had a reference or an inspiration on the Scrubs musical, and in general, a lot of them did kind of stand out.
Yeah.
Not so much on ours. And that was a big disappointment for me.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think again, from my perspective, looking at what they're doing, I think again, and I read that the musicians were really trying to keep things very Star Trek, while the Star Trek writers were trying to keep things very musical, and they eventually had to have a little bit more collaborative effort working together because they were each trying to do each other's jobs, and that can get messy from a production standpoint, of course. But I think
I guess sorry to interrupt. I guess it all boils down to, as a viewer, what would one desire from a musical episode, a Star Trek musical episode? So, because in general, I feel like this episode is, this sounds so stupid to say, what if Star Trek made a musical? It would be concentrated on the fact that it's one or two composers, two in this case, doing their own style to make a Star Trek musical. And this is where my disclaimer comes in, where I was basing it off Scrubs and had my own preconceived notions of what a special musical episode would be, and that would be a little bit more of a celebration of just musicals in general. But so this, I think this was the result of our composers just, again, there is variety of tone and style, but not necessarily as verbose as I personally was hoping for. It was our composers writing a Star Trek musical in their styles, in their ways. So it's all about what personally people want from a Star Trek musical episode, whether they want, like me, a celebration of all musicals with a whole ton of variety where everything kind of stands out, or do they want something more coherent and connected where this episode can basically stand on its own. So I give it props for that. This episode does stand on its own. The songs relate specifically to the story. The style of composition is fluid throughout the entire episode and doesn't go all over the place. So it's just, at that point, it's kind of personal preference.
Yeah, and while I've made it very clear that I'm not the most musically inclined, but I do enjoy my fair share of musicals. I love Les Mis, and Greatest Showman was one of my favorite movies here recently. La La Land, of course. There's no shortage of great musicals out there. There is something for everybody, truly. But God, you got 55 minutes. You got 55 minutes within a almost 60-year-old franchise.
I don't disagree, but Scrubs did it in 22.
That's man. I was like, don't say anything about Scrubs.
I'm sorry. That is my bar. That is my bar. They knocked it out of the freaking park.
And again, I think, having to walk the line of not getting of letting the Star Trek restrict camera movement, lighting, things of that nature. When that initial blowback from the subspace fold sweeps through the ship, you see it sort of knock the crew off their feet. We don't see it affect the ship itself. Now, I think if it had,
Oh,
okay.
actually, sorry. Please, actually, sorry. Finish your statement because I feel like we're about to mind meld on this one.
Yeah, I think so. Had they noted that it affected the ship as well, then I think we would have gotten probably the big sweeping, very cinematic shots that are so often associated with the classical musicals of yesterday. You don't see it a lot today. In fact, a lot of musicals today tend to focus on more of a minimalistic presentation. Some of them have bigger sets, but it's a lot
like a la Rent.
Yeah. I saw a minimalist presentation of Sweeney Todd. I saw a minimalist presentation of Les Mis, and there's part of me that thankfully I waited before I watched any of the movies. I like to see the musical first. In fact, when I spoke with Nami Melamod, the composer of Strange New Worlds, I asked her what her favorite musical was, and she said Wicked. And I said, oh, I hadn't seen it yet because at the time the first movie had just come out. She goes, do yourself a favor, see it on stage first. I was like, noted.
Agreed.
Will do. So there are certain musicals that lend themselves to a stage performance. There's so many, I just mentioned La La Land, Greatest Showman. Those started as films first, and then became the big hits.
That was one thing I was going to interject is that when I talk about spectacle, I'm totally focusing on the movie TV show element of it, because like theater, the beauty about theater is there's so many different takes and so many different ways to do it, and each production is different in their own way. It could be minimal, they can go off the rails and do crazy pyrotechnics and flying people, whatever. Theater, the director of that show finds how they want to present it. Now, in the medium of television and movies, and maybe I've been too coerced by the musicals that are already out there, but spectacle is a huge part of it. I'm struggling to think off the top of my head, minus Disney movie. Well, okay. I'm struggling to I'm struggling to think off the top of my head any musical movie or movie that I've seen that has been pretty minimalistic in how they present their songs. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that could prove me wrong. And I said even Disney, even though Disney, especially the animated stuff, goes out of their way to be as spectacle as possible in some songs, and they can reserve a lot to others. So I had all my notes on this episode went in order and chronologically in the episode, but one of my bigger ones was, for the exception of Chapel Song and the finale, not enough overall spectacle. I was hoping to see a lot more creative camera work. Oh, here's a big one that even in the finale and Chapel Song, you don't get a lot of characters physically emoting. So, okay, and I'll take La'an's song as an example. She is an amazing freaking singer. I literally have a note saying "All hail Christina Chong."
Oh yeah.
She's an amazing singer, and because her performance is so compelling and so powerful, it's okay to be a little bit more minimalistic. But when you think of someone singing their heart out emotionally in a musical, whether it's on stage or not, don't you usually envision someone like holding their heart, crossing their arms across the chest, and then doing like the wide arm thing, and just like really giving in to their space? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
So, and So that was a big one for me this rewatch this time around, is that unless there's some big dance choreography specific to that song or moments,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people standing still and singing and looking at people or whatever. It's just
Okay.
it's like they're reciting lines, like they're reciting actual dialogue. But this is a song. This is a musical. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do a lot with the emotion in your voice, but because this is a very visual medium, I want to see the emotion in your body as well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see you physically emote. And that was not done satisfactorily to me in this episode.
Okay. So I am going to disagree with you. And I think I've got a couple things to cite. One is that I think the movements or lack thereof are in line with the characters. I'll give you an example. You're not going to get the chest grab and big arm motion from Spock. You're just not. He's very reserved.
Yes.
It's a big emotional thing for him to even walk around as he's singing. He is about, I'm standing here at the console, this is what I do, this is my thing. So for him to have this big emotional turn and start walking around dramatically is a big thing for Spock. Now, connect to your truth, Una and Kirk. She is trying to connect with him. She's also trying to guide him as he's shadowing her as he's just been promoted. Also, Paul Wesley has a dancing background, and uh, Rebecca Romaine studied voice. So it's kind of a really perfect combination of them singing back and forth. And you'll notice as they dance down the hall,
Mm-hmm.
she's moving backwards, meaning she is bringing him along. She is bringing him down the hallway.
I do want to say that Find Your Truth, is that the title?
Yes, Connect to Your Truth.
Connect to Your Truth is one of my standouts. So
Okay.
a lot of this criticism that I have towards other songs doesn't actually apply to this one, because I think it's a standout in terms of style and genre, because it's a waltz, and that's the only not 4/4 song that's in this episode, and the fact that they do dance together. So yeah, I think Connect to Your Truth is one of the best songs and presentation of songs in this episode. So that is an outlier. So I do agree with you.
And I'll even go as far as to go back to Spock's song I'm the X, which is of course the companion piece to Chapel's song I'm Ready. We actually see the flip side of the coin where Spock is moving around by himself. Like Uhura's standing still. She might as well be part of the set. As opposed to I'm Ready, which that bar set is not spacious. It is cramped, and they loaded it up with cast members. And I watched a couple behind the scenes things that they brought even more people in for that dance number, and that's where you get the camera movement, the big dramatic camera movement, the big dramatic dance number.
That's another outlier for me. That song is another outlier for me. All these critiques don't apply to that one either.
So moving to Keeping Secrets.
Yes, that is my big one.
Keep in mind, again, I'm looking at this narratively. So the story that I'm being presented is that you have someone, and again, Una talks about how she has been perceived on the ship by the crew as someone who keeps their distance. She's trying to make more connections, but then now she's talking to Lon, who is also very reserved, doesn't make a lot of connections. That's this whole thing has been about, is her trying to connect with Kirk and whether or not she should. So you have these two characters who are very reserved. So again, bringing them in, but having them let their emotions out a little bit, like we just saw earlier in this season, maybe some of the best presentation of dramatic material in the courtroom episode, Ad Astra Per Aspera. Again, I'm a former legal professional, so that episode hit really, really hard. So seeing that and then having Una talk about knowing what it's like to keep secrets and trying to express that to someone who is also keeping secrets for whatever reason. Una doesn't know, she's not allowed to know. But you've got these two characters that are very reserved. So rather than get the big movement from the characters themselves, Una grabs the pad and turns off the gravity and lets the emotion of that feeling sort of lift them off the ground. That's how I'm interpreting that. And
which is great.
You know,
That's stuff I never quite considered. And so totally valid. Not going to try and disagree with you there. I kind of love how keeping secrets is kind of like a center point for a lot of my critiques and suggestions. I hate to be that critic who is like, oh, I would have done this, that, and the other thing. But this does lead into a lot of my thoughts about what could have made this episode better. Okay, to your point about these are two reserved characters. One has started to loosen up a bit, and is trying to convey how to do the same to another uptight reserved character. First off, I do want to say, I feel like
this is a safe space.
Yeah,
express yourself.
I'm trying to think the best way to really communicate this. Okay, so you are absolutely correct, and again, totally valid that a lot of the blocking and the way these songs are performed are very loyal to the characterization of these characters. But in my opinion, you still have to recognize that you're doing a musical episode. Like it's either commit or get off the pot. Like go in full force or don't do it at all. So, and there's plenty of, again, I'm not a super whiz and professional when it comes to musicals and whatnot, but I know that there are plenty musicals out there that have reserved characters doing something very similar to what Una and La'an are doing, and they're still able to add an element of like, and maybe like Footloose. I'll use Footloose as an example, where you got the main character of Kevin Bacon trying to teach his best friend, who is very reserved, and how to dance. So it's basically like do this, do that, try this, and maybe he was very bad at it, but then like no, you got to loosen up. Come on. So embody that. I want to see that. I want to see somehow Una, through what would be typical musical theatrical movements, try to loosen La'an up, other than literally just standing across from her singing at her. And the two of them barely move. Now to the gravity, because that actually brings me back to the whole spectacle thing.
Okay.
And I love that, and I love that you talked about how there could have been an added element of danger and risk to this thing if like ships were dancing and whatnot. So my thing about spectacle was more camera movements, characters physically emoting. I wanted lighting changes. Like, where are the flashy lights, the spotlights? Something to visually really bring in the audience and the viewers and show that, yeah, because I did really want more of like a theatrical musical experience in this. So like, where are my flashy lights? Where are my spotlights? Which then made me think, oh, again, and I hate to do, well, I would do it this way, but what if the flashing lights and the gravity, what if Una didn't turn off the gravity herself? What if the gravity just turned off? And then you had this spectacle moment of these two characters singing and kind of like air dancing while weightless. But those can still be risks and dangers in the whole situation, because all of a sudden people are reporting the Pike and be like, hey, the ship is like doing these weird things with the lights and gravity turned off. Like, we don't know what the ship is going to do in the situation. Like,
right.
So, and also ships did dance in the finale.
Yeah. I didn't think I mentioned the ships dancing. I think I was leaning
My
more
apologies.
towards
I thought you did.
the actual physical, like an actual physical change in the ship. Now, if this had been on Discovery, it would have, because Discovery's sentient. So Discovery's yeah. So that I think if you're looking for that, then you're looking for a Discovery musical. But
I guess my main point is they committed for some songs, Connect to Your Truth, Chapel Song, and the finale in terms of spectacle, just not the rest. It was kind of like all or nothing to me.
And it's, and I was going to save this for later, and I will save it for later, but there are noted members of the cast who have extensive musical backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think watching this, it is easier to pick out the ones who don't, who are not trained dancers, who are not trained vocalists. And that's not meant to slight anybody, but these folks are on a schedule. They've got this episode to crank out, and it is a big ask.
Yes, I know that this is coming from someone who has this perfect envision of what this episode would be, but obviously budgets and scheduling, I do know that, and I take it all with a grain of salt.
Right. But
look, I hate to say this again, but my bar is the Scrubs episode.
True.
Every single one of those songs in that Scrubs episode with a micro budget compared to what Strange New Worlds is working with, still have full like chorus dance numbers or like over the top shots of crowds. Like, they're playing with it. They committed. Everyone's and they're still falling in with the characterization, because like Dr. Cox has a song and he's not doing big physical emoting things.
No. Now all of his
people
big
around him
movements
are,
right.
And that's when you get like the spotlight on the janitor.
Right.
So like,
fair. That's fair.
That's my comparison. That really is my comparison.
Now, a lot of, and I will say, don't get me wrong, folks. Just because I don't agree fully with Ian, and Ian doesn't agree fully with me, neither one of us are wrong.
And also, please don't forget, I really do like this episode, and I think they did it really well. I was hoping for a little more. And I can envision more.
Oh yeah. And I really love the Scrubs episode. I really, really do. In talking about the diversity of song, it's a big ask to have a lot of diversity of song within, certain. Okay, we have a scientific reason. It's affected the crew this particular way. So we're going to kind of stay in these genres within a certain era of musicals, I feel like, save for the Klingons. But I felt like with the Scrubs musical, you got your big stage dance numbers. You had your Guy Love, which was, just Turk and JD back and forth, but you also had Turk and Carla that had very Spanish flair.
Well, yeah. So like a great example. It was two characters in the ICU, and they're doing a tango with each other.
Yes.
So they're like circling around each other. They're like kind of,
and they're husband and wife, so it makes sense.
Yeah. But they're like kind of challenging each other physically. They're like leaning on patient beds to get into each other's spaces and back and forth. So like they're utilizing the they're utilizing the set around them.
Yes, not only are they utilizing the set around them, but they're also using character those characteristics to inform that type of musical. And again, that musical is presented through the lens of a patient with a tumor. So it's this one patient.
Yeah,
that
and
is
in that
seeing all of
case,
this.
you can absolutely go above and beyond spectacle wise and still have that that underlining excuse that, oh, this is all in this woman's head. So I totally get that, and that's why I totally acknowledge that your take on everyone stayed in their characterization, totally valid. I personally fall into that camp of, if you're going to do a musical episode, you gotta commit to it across the board.
Yeah. Now, the other, and I mentioned this in the pre-show discussion, but I'm also a big fan of the Community musical episode, which is called Regional Holiday Music. It's season 3, episode 10. Basically, the study group replaces the Glee Club at Christmas. That one's really fun because if anybody's familiar with Community, they always like to take jabs at the TV show Glee. So those songs were also, it was geared towards a lot of holiday stuff, but it was also geared at not necessarily musicals, but Glee Club specifically. So it was a lot of sort of covers, not really covers, but more like direct genre specifics type songs. You had Annie doing a very not a striptease,
right,
but
that's where that
the
sultry
sexy
Santa outfit. Okay, yeah. Because I was telling Todd before this that I have watched Community a couple times, but I just few and far between watches, so I just didn't really remember it that well. But I definitely remember Annie in the Santa outfit.
When it gets to the last thing of Jeff telling her,
look, eventually you hit a point of diminishing returns on the sexiness.
What's the diminishing?
Like she can't even say the word. Like all of her feminine power is gone. It's a very fun moment. It's a really funny episode. But yeah, so typically what we're doing on this show is lesser of a review and more how you felt about these things. And again, because I come from a storyteller perspective, I do like to ask how people connect with certain elements of the story. And we've already talked for a good long while, so I'm going to keep this real brief. We've both confessed to each other that we have not been cranking out content the way we would like to, or the amount of content for our schedule that we would like to. Chapel, she gets this fellowship and she's like, you know what? This is more important to me than my relationship with Spock. And I can tell you, like, not only from doing podcasting, but from doing stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy, if you're going to work, you're working weekends and you're working out of town. That gets pretty tricky for somebody with a family, for somebody with a spouse. So I'll ask you, how do you handle, or how do you feel about prioritizing work over personal life?
Oh boy. Loaded question. That is a loaded question. Well, I guess first off, just to keep it connected to the episode, it's a very real thing for Chapel to have to contemplate and then ultimately choose her passion and her career path over other things like friendship, relationships. Yeah, it's a super real thing. I will say she has the benefit that her passion is her career.
Oh yeah.
Because to answer your question, my passion is definitely it's still a hobby. Like my YouTube channel and my content is still a hobby. Like I do not I make money off of it, but I don't even think I go in the positive. I think I still spend enough in terms of like equipment and costumes that I'm still in the negative. But um and I not to get too depressing, but I do not have the luxury of working a job that I am passionate about or that fulfills me. And one of the most irritating things about not being able to make as much content as I want to is I want to make content, but I have this job that I need to pay the bills
Yeah.
that I get nothing from. And it also like stresses me out. So I've kind of gotten past the complaint of not having enough free time because like when I do have free time, I'm so mentally zapped or I'm so bummed out from my day that sometimes popping in front of a camera to be goofy just is not an option. Like I just don't feel like doing that.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, it's just been rough. Like there's already enough like the baseline is there's already enough shit going wrong in the world, especially in the United States. So not only is it a deterrent to try and make goofy, happy stuff in this country during this time, during this administration, especially when you keep on throwing out more and more bullshit that keeps on coming between ICE raids and this stupid, needless war.
Yeah.
I also, and this is definitely the main thing. I went through a big breakup. I had a serious partner of 5 years.
Yeah.
And for reasons I won't go into, we broke up. And so between that, like drastically affecting my emotional state and desire to do goofy things.
Oh yeah.
Moving, expenses. I've actually moved twice in the last year and a half because, again, not worth going into, but yeah, it's just been tough. And we kind of talked about this off recording. I also had issues getting access to psych meds that I originally had. But because my company got bought out by a larger corporation, I was forced to switch health insurance. And United States healthcare being as crappy as it is, I literally went from having this cocktail of meds that was making me perfectly functionable to not having them and trying to deal with not only working without them, but having a social life and having passions without them.
Yeah.
So there were so many things. Like I was before all this went down, I still was barely even posting a video per month. That was always my goal. I've never hit that, but I was close a couple times. And then add all this crap, I went from posting like 9 to 10 videos a year to I think I did 3 last year, maybe 4. And I'm kind of on pace to do it again this year. But and yeah, I hate that. I hate that because this does bring me joy. I hate the fact that you can get to a point where even the things that you know bring you joy, you still can't get motivation to do because of outside influences, real life influences. But that being said, I do have 2 videos in the holster ready to go. Again, this is not a visual medium, but I currently have a big black eye from a procedure I had done last week, and I can't finish them because I need to film something else, and I can't do that until this shiner goes away. But I literally have two videos right in the holster, and one of them is a new song. So
sweet.
Hopefully, I didn't depress y'all that much by that little.
No, look, man. Like, I feel like this is, it's so funny when I started my career in law enforcement, I was working third shift at local county jail. I was a CO, and and it was tough because serving my community meant I missed birthdays, holidays, New Year's Eve kisses. I had to get more than one New Year's Eve kiss from my now wife in the parking lot of Greenville County Detention Center. She was like, I'm getting my kiss at midnight. If that means I got to drive to your workplace, it's happening.
I honestly, I kind of absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter the where, the when, the situation. Like that's actually heartwarming that it doesn't matter. It still happens.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. And when my wife really urged me to make the move full time with comedy and podcasting, I've said it before that I couldn't do this without her. It is with her support. I could not do it without her. And I I foolishly had the thought of like, oh, I'm going to have so much more time on my hands. Guess when comedians work? Weekends, nights, all the times that my wife is off. So I traded one loss of quality time for another. But all this to say, I've had my own bouts of anxiety and depression. I'm from a generation where it was like, we don't talk about it. We certainly don't see anybody professionally, and God forbid if we get on meds about it. That's just how I was raised. So for me to now be able to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm taking something. I haven't spoken to anybody professionally yet, but I'm close. I do a lot of my talking on stage. But just like you, there's times where like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Todd A. Davis. And want to get up there and yell at those people for making me have to get up there and tell jokes when I don't want to. I don't feel like it. It sucks. And I hate every single one of them.
There are times that this is, even though I'm very proud of my upcoming videos that I'm hoping to release pretty soon. Going through the footage was kind of a splash of cold water. It was one of the very few times where I'm looking at the footage of myself and I'm like, my heart is not into this. Like I am thankfully I was able to find good takes and make content out of it. But the majority of it was like, wow, yeah, even I can see it. I'm not there. I'm not fully there. Yeah. I do want to go on the record. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I was able to find my get my meds again. So I'm
wonderful.
Totally on board for psychiatric meds that help anyone through depression, anxiety, ADHD, whatever. Because I also, we're of similar age, so we just grew up in a time where it like, you're not depressed. Just snap out of it, or you don't have ADD or ADHD. You just gotta focus more. It's all about like you're choosing to be a procrastinator like this. So going from that life to having meds that worked to then having those meds yanked during a very hard time in my life post breakup. I went from like living with my partner for 3 years to being alone again. Oof. With no med. Oh my God. Like this is probably one of the worst last years of my life, but it's turning a corner. I'm not trying to depress people, but it's turning a corner, and one of the things that is actually driving me finally again is my content. Like, I'm excited to make content again. And so me too. It's all going up. It's all going up.
Yeah. And we know our purpose is to protect the mission, our prime directive.
Oh,
to quote a little bit.
Great segue.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought almost like I do this professionally. But yeah, okay, we've had our moment of dissecting. Oh, we've definitely dissected this episode, but we also dissect ourselves on this and really try to get in and see what Star Trek means to individuals. And I want to just thank you right here for being so open and honest and sharing your experience. I'm forever grateful for that. So thank you. And I cherish your friendship, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. You're very welcome. And I cherish our friendship as well.
Yeah. I know we've already talked for a good long while, but I know there's a couple more things about this episode before we move on into our other, regularly established segments. So leaving it to you. What else jumped out at you about this episode? What haven't we talked about yet?
Okay, I have three things that I highlighted on my notes. First, easy peasy. I already mentioned all hail Christina Chong, but then I also have a note far later on, all hail Celia Rose Gooding.
Oh my God.
So need to make sure that I highlighted how amazing she is too.
For sure.
Okay, so and I feel like I've been very negative about this episode, even though I want to reinforce that I really do like it, and I think they did a great job. Again,
yeah.
Maybe I'm too picky. I don't know, that I wanted more. But
no, it's listen, as soon as credits roll, I want more. So trust me, you're in good company, man.
One thing I didn't think about at the time that came to me on these rewatches is, and I don't know, was this planned by production, the writers and producers, or was it a happy accident? But this was a fantastic placement in the season, this episode, because it's right before the finale. And I mean, it's not even a Strange New Worlds thing. I think everyone just expects in TV in general the finale to be pretty hard hitting and darker, less lighthearted. So to have such a romp before hegemony what that already alone was a good idea. But the main reason I think this is a great placement in the season is because we are practically at the peak of a lot of story and character arcs that this episode was able to progress or even resolve. And two of the main ones being La'an and Kirk and Spock and Chapel. So La'an and Kirk was, unless I'm forgetting something, was able to be wrapped up by this episode.
Yeah.
And Spock and Chapel, of course, was continued. But my main point is that because it was able to utilize already existing character arcs near their peak, there was no need to shoehorn any new story arcs or dramatic arcs just to force any emotional songs or ballads. So like all the songs were earned. Nothing felt written just for this episode.
Yeah.
And that is a big plus for me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This, and you're God, you're hitting the nail right on the head with the placement of this episode, because the very next thing we got part 1 and part 2 of hegemony, which is to this point in Strange New Worlds biggest, ultimately darkest two-parter, a true two-parter in an episodic show, because the season 1, while season 1 ends on a cliffhanger, it doesn't get wrapped up immediately. But
that was just a cliffhanger on like literally the last minutes. Like that episode if you cut that scene out, that episode stands on its own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is its first proper two-parter.
Yeah. And not only do they finally wrap it up with Ad Astra Per Aspera, but the season 1 or the episode, season 2, episode 1 establishes something that's touched on in this episode. The fact that Spock has good diplomacy with the Klingons, and he's able to, of course, over some blood. Ethan Peck's walk from the turbo lift to his station when he just plops himself down in that chair. It's subtle, but you definitely notice like, oh, he is hammered right now.
it is excellent, and is a great through thread that honestly I never really connect. Obviously, in the first episode of the second season, when he kind of like leads the diplomatic resolution to that episode, yes, of course, I think, oh, that's like a little seedling of his diplomacy with the Klingons later on.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never even clocked into that for this one. But anyways, so yeah, great physical performance by Ethan Peck. But oh my God, I wish sometimes I could turn off my hypocritical brain, because I saw that on the heels of watching a different show, a police drama, where one character is an alcoholic and gets lambasted for either A, being drunk on the job or being hungover on the job. And unfortunately, all I could think of is, oh, that would never fly. He should have removed himself from duty if he's that drunk or hungover. But that's not something I want to fixate on. That is a very throwaway critique, because yes, that moment was hilarious.
There's one other thing, and I think both of us, the last things that we'll talk about, I know. So I do want to mention this one technical aspect that I don't know that I caught on my first viewing, but I definitely got it on the rewatch, was in the song Keeping Secrets, when Lon is talking about the effect secrets have on people. Secrets I keep safe inside can keep you awake and cut like a knife. On those two, the footage cuts away from Una and Lon and goes to medical. Can keep you awake, and it's on Chapel, and then it pans over, can cut like a knife, and it goes to M'Benga, who we just saw is revealed to be the Butcher. From,
and also he had the secret of his daughter in the first season.
Of his daughter,
that's sorry, I dropped the F-bomb earlier. That's freaking ingenious that I never caught before. So amazing. Awesome.
Every now again, I come at this from a storytelling perspective, but every now and then I catch a technical thing of them making a decision in the cinematography to show someone else when they're talking about something. And I think I've either picked that up through my film analysis on Cinema Shock or from reading so many comic books over the years. But anyways, that's something I've been working on lately. Is I want to give shout outs to two of my favorite Star Trek YouTubers, but also media critics. Yeah,
and those would be Steve Shives and Jesse Gender.
Okay,
and since watching them, I've never been media illiterate. Like if somebody points out stuff like that for metaphors and symbolism and whatnot, and why certain things are focused on when they don't seem to be the focus in a scene or a song or whatever. I may not pick it up originally, but as soon as someone explains it to me, it clicks. So, and that's one of those things where like, I'm so glad that you said that, because now I can appreciate that moving forward. And I've ever since I started watching those two, I've really been trying to up my media or just storytelling theory game.
It's so interesting to me, because I was focused for so many years on, well, the writer tells the story. That's what they do. Well, the director does. And then you think, actually, cinematographer, actually, the editor. And it was like, oh no, this is a collaborative medium, like television, film, music, audio plays. Like I'm really diving deep on audio plays right now, and I'm actually here's a little exclusive.
Are you gonna do con?
I'm not doing con. I'm
Okay.
I'm doing I'm doing something I'm not ready to say yet, but it will drop later this year, hopefully.
Okay.
Fingers crossed,
But
knocking
but
on
I mean,
wood.
on your chronological review journey, is
Oh, will I
Is
be?
Con going to be part of it? The
I
podcast or the
I think it
the
has to
podcast?
be. Not only will I be covering the con podcast, I'd also like to cover the IDW comic con ruling in hell, because I mean it picks up right after Space Seed with them
Careful,
dropping
that's a
the.
slippery slope if you start introducing comics
Oh, I've already done
and
it.
beta canon.
It's I have very specific rules for introducing comics and other things. So the ones that I've chosen are very, very explicit that they tie directly into an episode or a very specific series of events. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, anyways, I think moving right along because we still have a lot of things to discuss. The last two things I want to talk about are the beginning and the end. First thing, they do a different version of the opening credits. Like what? It's like, and it's subtle at first, but then you start listening. It's like, oh, those are voices. Oh, this is a new version. This is a new version of the opening credits. Like, what a wild thing. So, what did you think about the a cappella version of the opening titles?
Okay, I hate to be that guy, but I need to actually you. It's not completely a cappella. There is
Well,
some
yeah.
instrumentation below it, but I
Yeah.
yes, I do really love how they substituted some instrumental parts a cappella or vocally.
Mhm, mhm.
So this is, and I know I've kind of said something previously earlier about well, again, I remember how I felt when I watched it, so I'm not going to take current knowledge of where the show goes when I give my opinion. I think it was fantastic. I love that this was the first time that they tweaked the audio of the opening
Mhm.
sequence. They of course tweaked the visuals for the crossover episode with Lower Decks.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the first time they tweaked the audio, and yeah, I like it how it they weave the new stylized intro with the theme of the episode. So yeah,
Mhm.
no critiques there. Really, really not. Like it's a cute, acceptable
Yeah,
gimmick.
it's
Now,
fun.
again, season 3 goes a little overboard next year, but we'll talk about that if we do.
And the last thing I think is we get the just before the instrumental medley over the end credits, we get a big finale. The grand finale. Uhura moves for it and we get it. And it's always tricky to see from a production standpoint of how do we get all the characters in one location at the same time? Like how do we narratively make that happen? Because as we know, the ship has a lot of different stations. They're all very different, but we get engineering and medical on the bridge. Like all the big players in one spot singing one song and doing a dance number for this closing finale. What do we think of the finale We Are One?
Okay. Now this I did tease in the beginning. I said
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
big
yeah.
thoughts on the finale.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, a reminder, one of my critiques about a lot of the musical numbers was spectacle and whatnot. Obviously does not apply to this one. And because yeah, there was physical emoting by practically everybody. There was dance numbers. There was dancing ships. So yeah, so it had it all.
Yep.
Here's my thing about the finale song.
Okay.
That honestly would have, if it happened this way, would have propelled this to one of my favorite episodes of all time. I know it's such a piddly little thing to like then drastically change my opinion of an episode. But okay. through the entirety from the moment they officially announced that there was going to be a musical episode, there was one thing I wanted. And as the episode progressed, I still had this one thing that I wanted.
Okay.
And then it gets to the finale. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Gimme, gimme, gimme. What I wanted was basically a all-encompassing, vague enough song and catchy enough to basically be the Star Trek anthem that any fan could sing at any time, and it would just be, this is the Star Trek song. Like a song that celebrates Star Trek. Now, not from a meta point of view where they literally talk about the show Star Trek, but what I was hoping to get was a song that was celebrating being in Starfleet's main missions of exploration and scientific discoveries, and a celebration of being a crew together doing this thing. And that was not it, because it was too tied to the story of the episode. Now, I saying that, I know there's going to be a lot of people being like, well, that's the point. It's the finale to the episode. Yes. And it kind of goes back to what one personally wants from a Star Trek musical episode. If you just isolate this as an episode, and that's the grand finale of the episode, it works fine because it wraps up everything in that episode. But there was nothing, even in the story of the episode, saying that this song had to be so connected to the story where it only stands, or it only makes sense in the context of this episode. I was hoping for a grand finale, this Star Trek anthem that fans could sing that just stands on its own.
Yeah. You were hoping for another Faith of the Heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but yes. I was hoping because again, the episode was like, we just need everyone singing together. They didn't say what it had to be about. So
okay.
Well, okay, quickly before I go on continue my rant. What's your hesitation?
I think because they do, I feel a decent job connecting that it's the emotion behind the songs. So they establish the musical reality and that the music starts when the emotions are at their height. So they make it specific to the crew. You know, I look around and everyone I see, the pinnacle of guts and resiliency. Like, we know our purpose to protect the mission. Like I think there's a lot of, yes, specific to the episode, but general overarching narrative things about Star Trek in general that I think, given time, because Faith of the Heart was not loved back in 2006. It's loved today, 20 years after the fact.
Yes.
So maybe given time, but
my counter to that was
sure.
In terms of explaining why the song had to happen and establishing the situation, that was already done via dialogue before the song even started.
Right.
And I'm okay with the idea of protect the mission. But it could be assumed that the mission is just Starfleet's general exploration and scientific discoveries, but at no point was that ever mentioned in the song. It's like, this is our goal right now, and we're going to do it. But imagine a finale that they are singing about how they love being in Starfleet. They love being a crew together. They love exploring. They love working as a team and solving issues together. I'm not saying elements of that wasn't already there, but I what I wanted more of is to disconnect it from the actual story of the episode because there are so many lines, phrases, and moments where it only stands up in the context of this episode. I really truly wanted something open enough that it's just talking about Star Trek. I wanted a Star Trek anthem out of this musical episode. So from my envisioning, I was envisioning from this episode that conventions and whatnot after, you could just play this song and know that they're talking about Star Trek, not a specific episode, but Star Trek, and that fans could just join in and sing about their love of Star Trek through this anthem.
Yeah.
Now, am I being way too hopeful, critical? Am I out of my gourd as that was my wish? Maybe. But from the moment the press release came out or the first articles came out that a musical episode was happening, that was the one thing I wanted.
And you may still get it.
I hope so.
It's again, like I said, give it time. Give it time.
But you're not wrong. Like, yeah, give it time. And a lot of these songs might enter the overall zeitgeist of fandom, but that doesn't change the subject of that song. It doesn't change what's being sung about and discussed in that song.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And again, looking at some of the other musical episodes we've mentioned a few. There's a lot.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but that was one of my points is like the Scrubs musical. They had a whole Sacred Heart number. Now I know Scrubs is much more compact and defined as a property and as a show. But if hypothetically, if there were Scrubs conventions or anyone goes to a Scrubs panel and then all of a sudden the Sacred Heart song is played, everyone could. You don't need the context of the episode. It touches upon some context of the episode about why they were even singing in the first place. But overall, it's like, just this is who we are. Here's Dr. Cox. Here's Kelso, who's the blowhard of the hospital. Welcome to Sacred Heart. It's like, I wanted my Sacred Heart song.
It's a great opener. It's a great opener. I don't know that it's the most powerful song in the episode.
I'm not claiming it is. I'm just saying I was hoping for something along those lines.
It is finale level for sure. Yeah. But they use it as the opener, which I guess might be the stronger way to go.
I don't even care if my hypothetical anthem was the finale or the opener or
right.
In musical theater you got the act 1 ending finale that then carries in I don't care where it is. I just wanted some sort of generic overall arcing Star Trek celebrating song that we could all sing as a fandom that would even eclipse Faith of the Heart.
Yeah, it
might have been too much of a lofty goal and expectation in my mind, probably, but that's really what I wanted.
There's a lot of big asks for this episode, and for everything that they packed into 1 hour. Yeah. I think
I know I've critiqued a lot. I've talked about the songs that I wanted more spectacle for and blah 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 blah. If the episode stayed exactly the way it is, but they gave me that anthem, 10 out of 10. One of the greatest episodes ever.
Fair enough. I will say, personally, with the Scrubs musical, I find myself, I don't get full songs in my head. I get a couple lines. There's a couple of lines, welcome to Sacred Heart. Like it's the hook of that song. It's the title of that song. That's a brainworm an earworm in and of itself. The other one is shut your cake hole, Mary Beth.
Oh, I swear to God, I'll shut it soon.
Yeah. The other one has become really special for me and my wife. You're going to be okay. That's what's going to happen.
Oh,
like my wife and I sing that to each other when we're scared. When we go for usually when we go for medical procedures. One of the things, and we've had a bunch of them this past 2 years. We're always there. We always hold each other's hand, and we get really close to the other person. And we almost whisper it into each other's ear of, "You're going to be okay.
You're gonna be okay." Oh my God,
Yeah.
I love that.
It's great. So
Don't make me well up right now.
I know. I was like, okay, we're gonna dial it back. I'm not gonna cry on this episode.
You did actually just jog. Oh, go ahead.
One last thing about the other musical episodes. As much as we've talked about Scrubs and we've talked about Community, this episode of Star Trek, they clearly cite in multiple places that they were trying to live up to Once More with Feeling, the Buffy episode. I don't ever really hear a lot of people singing the Buffy episode that much.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either. I have the album on vinyl.
I'm sure you got a lot of listeners screaming right now about how Buffy does everything that you wanted and everything that I wanted. We just don't know.
Yeah. It's, you know what? It's been on my list. I'll get to it. Just give it time.
So
go ahead with your thought.
I'll try and be brief. You reminded me about something again. It's another, and I really I hate to keep on being, oh, I would do it this way, but I can't help it. When you said, you mentioned the Scrubs episode about how like that theme of Welcome to Sacred Heart carried over later on into the finale and the and You're Gonna Be Okay song. That was another thing that was kind of missing from this episode, was a singular little through theme. A little melody or theme that could have been carried on forward. Like,
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm really putting on my like musical critique hat right now, because there was that. Well, no, I'll just stop right there. Maybe Patreon special features can get my next rant, but I'll leave that there right now. But yeah.
Yeah,
I wanted that anthem so bad. I wanted a song that, again, Faith of the Heart now is very well known. A lot of people know it. A lot of people still hate it, but it is one of those songs that you just plop on at any convention and people can sing.
Yeah,
I was hoping for. Yeah,
both of us have been in the room with groups of fans in various locations where the song has started, and honestly, it gives you goosebumps. It's very special.
So imagine a song that was more all franchise encompassing. There we go. All franchise encompassing, that you could play at any convention, that people could sing to, and it's, what is it about? It's about Star Trek. It's about Starfleet. It's about why we explore, why we work together. And I hate to say this, but because in season 3, there's a somewhat maligned episode of Stranger Worlds called We Are Starfleet.
Oh.
What would be a better finale anthem song than something called We Are Starfleet?
Yeah. Well, I think while we've had our disagreements in this discussion, I think it's safe to say that, is this the worst episode of Star Trek? Not by a long shot.
Hell no.
Yeah. Is this the best episode of Star Trek?
I'm not going to give it a hell no, but it's a great episode of Star Trek.
It's very, very, it's very great. It's very well produced and all of that stuff. So again, this is more about how this makes you feel. That's this show's whole thing, is really finding out why it's special to you. And I think we've done that. So while we have disagreed, we also agree that it's Star Trek. It's great. So we've done a good job, I think, of dissecting this and really getting into some of the nitty gritty. But as we do every episode, we look not only in front of, but behind the camera and ask ourselves lovingly, who do we blame? This episode was written by Dana Horgan and Bill Wolkoff. Dana's last work in the timeline was earlier this season, Ad Astra Per Aspera, as I mentioned.
Oh, hell
one of
yeah.
my favorites. Yeah, it's a great episode. And Bill's last was just 2 episodes ago, Those Old Scientists. Those are both banger episodes. Those are
no wonder, again, like, I know I was really critical on the music, but everything else, no wonder this episode worked. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's really good. Those Old Scientists, we actually discussed that episode with Jackie Cox from RuPaul's Drag Race. It was a great discussion.
I bet that was fun.
Yeah, she's super sweet, and she, of course, just coming off of her cameo on Starfleet Academy. It was a great discussion. If you feel so inclined, please go check it out. It's a wonderful discussion. This episode was directed by Dermot Downs. Now, Dermot's first work in the industry was actually as a child actor. He has a few one-off appearances before playing the role of Truck in 1975's Escape from Witch Mountain.
So not the rock one.
Not the rock one, no. Dermot began working behind the camera with a couple of horror sequels. We have Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. He began working as a cinematographer in 1992, and to date has 14 music videos to his credit. Dermot began directing in the mid-2000s and has since made a name for himself with DC Comics fans, helming 1 episode of Gotham, 3 episodes of Arrow, 9 episodes of The Flash, including the musical episode in season 3.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was like, how did I not know that?
Well, now I'm curious about that one and see
I
how
know.
it ranks.
He's also directed 7 episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, 5 episodes of Supergirl, 2 episodes of Batwoman, and 4 episodes of Doom Patrol. But this is his first and so far only episode in the franchise. Hopefully not his last, because I think he did a heck of a job. It's pretty good. Now, normally we would jump right to the guest stars, of which, of course, we got a lot of the same players. Of course, Carol Kane as Pelia, Melanie Scarfano as Captain Battelle. We got Paul Wesley back as James Kirk, and we've, of course, Dan Giannette appearing again as Sam Kirk. But the big one, of course, is Bruce Horak as the Klingon General Garkog. It was such a funny, such a funny performance, even though he's on screen so briefly. We always love to see Bruce. Bruce, if you ever hear this, please, we'd love to have you on the show and talk to you.
It of course, just, well, first off, when this episode aired, I had no idea that was him. I honestly thought it was, I'm a horrible Star Trek nerd. I'm brain farting on his name.
But J.G. Hertzler?
Yes, I seriously thought it was Martok. Good Lord. But it unfortunately just makes me miss Hemmer that much more. Why did they ever do that? Why?
Here's the thing.
I love Pelia, but
Pelia's great. Yeah. Carol Kane, come on.
She's a great pop-in recurring character, but Hemmer was fantastic as a regular.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll get back to who do we blame in just a second, but I do want to stay on this for just a second because I used to read a comic book early 2000s called Stormwatch Team Achilles. Now, comic fans it's a bit of a divisive thing because there was some problems with the creator who lied on his resume. He got fired. The book got canned before it was supposed to be over. Blah 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 blah. Anyways, in that story, in 12 issues, early on, one of the main characters bites it. And I mean, in a big way, this character is not coming back. Head blown off. Like it's rough. And if you look around at certain things, and Star Trek is definitely one of them, especially a prequel series that has characters that we already know, there's a sense of safety. With the death of a major character, what that does is it creates a sense of unrest. It creates a sense of nobody is safe. So you are actively more engaged because you're identifying with this person, because you want this person to succeed. You want this person to survive. It would be really easy to just have young versions of all the TOS characters that we know and love, but we aren't going to be super happy about that because we know they're going to survive. No matter what they come across, they're going to survive. But here, we get to dive into some deep stuff and we get introduced to new characters who may or may not be on the chopping block. And it's dangerous because yes, we're following. Oh, these are characters I know and love. Oh, and new characters, and they're awesome too. They must be safe. Nope, they're not. And unfortunately, Hemmer was one of those characters, and we hate to see him go. But damn it, we've got feelings. We've got some feels about Hemmer, as you just said.
You're not wrong.
I do too.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, from a storytelling standpoint, yes. Yeah. But I don't know. Hemmer was just so good that it just sucks to have such a great character not live past that point. And it was okay. So like Tasha Yar TNG. Sure. That was a surprise. It was a shock, but there was behind the scenes reasons for it. She was leaving the show. Obviously, Bruce Horak, I'm sure he was informed that was going to happen, but obviously they liked him enough to keep bringing him back because there was that episode where the spirit or the whatever of Hemmer was talking to Uhura, and then he comes back as the K-pop Klingon, the Kling pop.
That's great.
And I know that when it comes to shocking deaths, a lot of this discussion always like goes back to Game of Thrones, mainly spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Game of Thrones. Ned Stark, who gets killed at the end of the first season. Well, that was very, very story oriented. The thing that kicked off practically the rest of the show was Ned getting beheaded. So at least from a storytelling point, there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
Going back to the episodic nature of Strange New Worlds, there really wasn't too much of a reason to kill Hemmer. I'm not saying don't kill Hemmer. I'm not saying don't kill any of the new new characters that don't have the plot armor. But it just sucks to lose someone who was that intriguing, who, by the way, I think a lot of people agree with me, and it just wasn't my opinion, who really like shined and found his peak at the prior episode with the fantasy episode. Because he was the one going along with Mbanga, who knew that something was going on, and as a character who is usually just far more grumpy, stoic, and reserved, to finally like see him let loose, it just unlocked possibilities for the character and for the hopes of the viewers, only to knock him off the next episode. So yeah, I'm not against the shock death, but placement, I don't know, placement, reason, it all goes into it.
I hear you. Getting back into who do we blame, we would normally stop there. We've talked about the writers, we've talked about the directors, we've talked about the returning guest stars, but we're actually going to go a little cut deeper. Let's talk about the musicians and the choreographer. I mean, this is a musical episode after all. So the original songs were by Tom Pulse, who did the music, and Kay Hanley, who wrote the lyrics of the band Letters to Cleo. Now, to your point, I don't know how many musicals they've written. I think part of the reason a lot of these songs don't have through lines and that maybe it doesn't ring true as a musical is that it was written by a band who writes standalone songs.
I didn't,
as opposed to
I did not, I
yeah,
did
as
not
opposed
know
to
that
musical writers.
because, again, sorry, bring up Scrubs again. The guest star of that episode who had the brain tumor, she was a Broadway performer, and I think, don't quote me on this, please. I think she either wrote or co-wrote. I could be wrong. Again, don't quote me on this. But anyways, the songs of the Scrub musicals was composed by a musical composer, a Broadway composer. So
Yeah.
they took
Makes
the
a difference.
general,
It makes
yeah,
a
they took the
difference.
general rules and expectations of a musical and infused it into that episode, which, in my opinion, we're missing here.
Right. So, I had a little trouble in the general spots that I look for info about Tom Pulse, but Kay Hanley actually has a couple of bigger credits. Now, in 1999, Hanley appeared as herself in the film 10 Things I Hate About You. I mentioned 10 Things I Hate About You earlier in this episode. Singing a cover of Nick Lowe's Cruel to Be Kind to Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles at their character's prom. Then in 2014, and this I had a lot of fun piecing this together. She appeared in the Parks and Recreation season 6 finale, performing her song Here and Now at the Pawnee Eagleton Unity concert. And here's the fun part of that. While she's on stage, off in the wings is the character of Ben Wyatt, played by Star Trek alum Adam Scott. He is seen off stage in his Letters to Cleo t-shirt, blissfully singing along and watching the band. And Hanley looks over at him and winks and kind of gives a little flirty face at him. And the funny part is that's your Star Trek connection between Kay Hanley and the helmsman of the Defiant from First Contact, Ben Wyatt. Played by Adam Scott.
He must have been a fan of the band.
Moment.
I bet you anything like that was his actual shirt.
I think it was the showrunner whose name escapes me for the moment, but I think he was a big fan, and I think they kind of wove that in because that episode is not the only episode where he wears the Letters to Cleo t-shirt. You see that throughout a couple episodes.
Either the showrunner or I don't know. I feel like that was such a focused moment that I feel like it could have been Adam Scott who's the fan.
It could have been. He's I think he's mentioned involvement in a couple of other musically geared projects from time to time. So neither would surprise me, honestly. Then the choreography was actually done by Roberto Campanella. As one might conclude, Roberto is from Italy. And I'd attempt to cite all of his dancing accomplishments, but I would undoubtedly mispronounce all of them. Suffice it to say, he's an extremely talented dancer and choreographer, and his work has been seen in Silent Hill, Beauty and the Beast, The Shape of Water, starring Star Trek alum Doug Jones, 26 episodes of The Expanse, 1 episode of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, and Frankenstein. So he works with Guillermo del Toro more than a couple times. So yeah, we've got, again, Star Trek is not in the business of hiring slackers and hiring people who are not very talented. I will give a couple of other shout outs in terms of technical expertise brought to this episode, and that's by our main cast. Rebecca Romaine actually studied voice at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Celia Rose Gooding, if you've watched any of the behind the scenes stuff, it gets mentioned. She won a Grammy and was nominated for a Tony for her performance as Frankie Healy in Jagged Little Pill. And of course, Christina Chong's EP, Twin Flames, was released in August of 2023. And her single, Baby Blue Day, which came out in 2025, features Ethan Peck. So yeah, the musical chops on this episode, there are no slouches. There are no slackers. It's Everybody swings for the fences. Now, like I mentioned, because you got Tom and Kay from Letters to Cleo writing this. Again, I don't know their musical backgrounds in terms of like stage or Broadway type musical shows, but I think when you're looking at it through the lens of, oh, they're from this indie rock band, I feel like that kind of lends a little more understanding to why certain decisions were made musically.
Was
Possibly.
Nami not involved in the composing of the songs?
I reached out to Nami. I did not see that she was involved. From what I understand, and again from my discussion with her on an episode, who she's incredible, very musically, wicked smart, and just a fun person to talk to. But from what I understand, she is a composer of the music throughout the episodes. Now, I think there is definitely music between songs, and I'm sure that's probably what Nami wrote.
Yeah, for sure. I was just curious if she was involved in the composing of the actual musical songs, because that's kind of another missed opportunity to have a connection of the songs into the soundtrack of the episode.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of collaboration so that the tone was similar between the ending of a song and the end of a scene or the end of a particular shot. Again, this gets into a deep production detail that unfortunately I'm not privy to. But needless to say, if I ever do get Nami back on the show, I will ask her and I'll let you know.
Awesome.
So, Ian, as we do every episode, we ask the question, is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down and working their way through Star Trek and they come to this episode, Subspace Rhapsody, for the very first time, is this a must-see episode, or is this one that they can skip?
Must see. For
okay.
The lame reason of Strange New Worlds, even though mostly episodic, still has through lines and story arcs and character arcs that go through the whole season. Like, you will lose something if you skip this episode, because you won't know why Chapel is leaving the Enterprise, and Spock and Chapel more or less officially break up, and then why La'an is suddenly okay with Kirk popping up in future episodes. So that's the lame reason. But also, it is a great episode. It is one of those episodes that, again, I know it's divisive, but in my opinion, it stacks up there with the adventurous episodes of, I'll say like, it's very, to me, it's very similar to like A Piece of the Action from the original series. Or I wish I thought of this idea earlier. I would have made comparisons to all the other shows. Well, it's like Take Me Out to the Holosuite. It's a big swing.
I was about to say Elementary Dear Data, like the Holosuite type stuff, where
classic Star Trek series episode that just says, screw it, let's have some fun, let's try something different. And why would a musical episode be any different? And I feel like the unfortunate reality of TV nowadays, being with bigger budgets, less episodes, it unfortunately draws over the top attention and criticism. Again, warranted or not. But if you have 24 episodes to play with, you can shake off the occasional bad one or goofy one. If you didn't like something that was more experimental, you can just be like, oh, whatever. When I watch this on DVD or streaming, I'll just skip it. But when you do shrink a season down to 10 episodes and people are still trying to play with one of those 10 episodes, it's a big deal. But so I still consider it view, because in just general terms of the story of the season, but also, yeah, it's the Star Trek musical episode.
Mm.
They're,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you have something that stands alone, why would you skip it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost easier to revisit bottle
Yeah.
episodes, the ones that stand
Yeah.
alone. Looking at the, because I think we definitely align on that. If you are like narratively, there are some loose ties, with the character tracks, and I've been big on mentioning character tracks before, but ultimately the effects of this particular episode don't really have a lot of big, long lasting loops. It's the character things that really do drive this episode. Like you said, Lon and Kirk, Spock and Chapel. But yeah, it really does end up being such a fun episode to watch that, yeah, I can't imagine skipping it for any reason, really. And I think that's probably, like you said, a piece of the action, elementary Dear Data, the long goodbye,
Our
take me
man
out to the hollow
Bashir,
suite,
like
like our man Bashir.
all the
Oh,
goofy
yeah.
ones where the producers, writers of a Star Trek show just want to have some fun. That's
Hey,
okay. It's okay for
wouldn't
Star
it be
Trek
fun if
to
we
have
didn't have to
fun,
wear spandex?
right?
What if we got to wear pinstripes and fedoras?
Now, granted, I know I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I did hint previously that I didn't like all the gimmick episodes of season 3. But that's a more
Mm-hmm.
granular conversation about if you do swing for the fences, whether it's done well or not.
Sure. And with New Trek, because you mentioned, they're having shorter seasons. We used to get 22, 23, 24, sometimes even more episodes in a season. And now we're down to, some shows are, 12 to 15, but the New Trek stuff, we're coming in tight 10, which
Well,
there's
what was
pros and
Academy?
cons
8?
for that.
Yeah, you're not fucking around with
Yeah,
8 episodes.
it's
Sorry.
tight. Yeah, it's
You're not
really
screwing
tight.
around with 8 episodes.
Look at looking at, and I always cite this when I talk to other folks about Star Trek, specifically Picard season 3. It watches like a 10-hour movie. Now, how does that compare when juxtaposed to a season of Strange New Worlds? Well, it watches like an anthology movie. If you recall some of those anthology horror movies where you'd get like 3 or 4, maybe 5 vignettes in a 2.5 hour movie, if you look at it that way, okay, we get a 10-hour movie that feels like a horror, like a romantic comedy, like a musical, and the list goes on and on. So, yeah, it's more character driven, but you are getting these serialized narrative chapters of this continuing story. So, yeah, I can't imagine skipping this. Like I said, for the mere fact of when the credits rolled, I looked over at my wife and she looked at me and said, "Now I'm a fan." So, like, that's high praise.
It's gonna
And look,
appeal to someone. Like, there's hardcore
yeah,
nerds out
go
there,
listen.
lifetime Star Trek fans who are like, I freaking hate this. This is an abomination. But guess what? It's bringing in somebody.
Oh yeah. And go and listen to the director's commentary on J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek. And they say it point blank early on. How do we get the wives and girlfriends? Like
Chris Pine shirtless, that's how.
Yeah. Oh, there's that. But it's, yeah, and you can make the argument that it's a business decision. They're trying to make money. Yeah, but you know what? Star Wars appeals to a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. There's no reason Star Trek can't do the same.
I do want to say really quick, it's not that, just do different things and that'll bring in fans. No, because like I know a lot of people might think that, oh, this musical episode like spits on what Star Trek is. No, that's why I am tried to emphasize in the beginning. If you take I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the musical is the musical element of this episode is the antagonist. It's the issue they have to deal with. And
Ah.
and again, I want to emphasize how I do accept and like the reasoning for it. So
Mhm.
it's not spitting on what Star Trek is because it gave a very Star Trek-y reason why this situation is happening.
Yeah.
And in a Star Trek-y way, they resolved it. So it is very Star Trek. They just happen to
Mhm.
be singing during it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show,
Thank
nerding out with
you.
me for way longer than I meant to keep you.
I'm not
Well,
doing anything these
we are
days.
uh, but I love getting to chat with you. I'm sorry it's taken so long for us to do it again. I promise I will have you back on sooner
It's
rather
all
than
worth
later,
it.
man.
It's all worth it.
So I will ask, do we have any parting thoughts? Anything to wrap up about this episode, the series, the franchise as a whole, your appearance here again on Computer Resume podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
Series and franchise, don't open up that can of worms for me. Are you kidding me? Especially after a couple glasses of wine deep, dude.
Oh yeah.
Playing with fire. Yes, I do want to reiterate that as I'm most critical about this episode when it comes to the music. I've said my piece when it comes to the songs. I know a lot of people love the songs, and I love that people love the songs. But as an episode in general, I think it was a success. I'm so glad they did this. And it's enjoyable, regardless of my wants and desires that might be a little in left field for the situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
This could be a to be continued moment or statement, but when it comes to Strange New Worlds, we'll see. At this time, when this episode aired, I love Strange New World. Season 3 really put me off, though. But that's a discussion for a later day.
Yeah.
As far as the franchise go, that's also a discussion for a later day because we're in some interesting times,
Yes, we
particularly
are.
with the state of the franchise. This is feeling very 2004. Personally,
Yeah.
I will just say, and I apologize for getting political, I would rather have no Star Trek than MAGA Star Trek. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. You are not the only person to express that, at least to me. I will say Star Trek, Star Trek's been good to me. Star Trek was not my first choice for content for a podcast. It was not my second choice for content for a podcast.
Well, now you need to tell me what.
We'll get into it in the after show. There's a lot we're going to touch on in the after show, folks. If you are not a Patreon member, do yourself a favor. Buy me a drink worth of support on Patreon, please. Please. It's just me over here. I'm doing my best here. But yeah. So, thank you again for coming on. Folks, next season, we will start with a discussion of Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 10, and Season 3, Episode 1, Hegemony, Parts 1 and 2. Ian, what are you doing? Where can people find your work on the internet and go and support things that you're involved in?
Well, actually, it's called Hegemony. Sorry. Gonna resist.
It's no, I knew in looking at it, I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh, I have to say this out loud. Hegemony? We'll get there. We'll get there.
You gave me, through context, you gave me the permission to actually you.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, I have a YouTube channel. It is called Rekt, spelled Rekt, because, just trying to keep up with the kids. But also, it's a clever little way to just move the T of Trek to the end. Boom. Yeah, and I do
so brilliant. So brilliant.
I do mostly Star Trek parody songs, which I love doing. On the occasion, I'll do some video essays. I'll do some other goofy things like Star Trek cocktails and trivias. I've been trying to do a lot more comedy sketches, which I have a lot planned in the future. But anyways, despite our discussion about not releasing content as often as we want to, I have many things ready to go and planned out. So at the end of 2016, Jesus Christ, the end of 2026 is going to be a good year. Yeah, and you can follow me on various social medias at, just type in Rekt, spelled that way. A lot of them include YT at the end, but you type in Rekt, you'll probably find me.
And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your Subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. Hashtag LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?